Turkey is located, the pandemic is sadly on the rise for a second time. Turkey is taking its struggle against the pandemic very seriously, and we allocate all our resources as much as possible. In the last couple of days, there has been an increase in cases and number of deaths, and that saddens us all. We do not have a treatment for this virus yet, so the most important, the most influential precaution against the virus is cleanliness, wearing a mask, and keeping a social distance. And once again, I would like to call on our nation to be careful about cleanliness, wearing a mask, and keeping a social distance. Citizens who contract the virus should follow the instructions of healthcare professionals. That is vitally important. Those who know that they are positive, but instead of remaining at home, those who go out, go to work, and who get together with other people endanger lives of others, and from a legal point of view, they are committing a crime as well. These precautions are not taken to make the citizens' lives more difficult. To the contrary, the objective of these objectives or these measures is to make sure that we can protect the welfare of all our citizens, including those that are positive. Those that do not adhere to the rules or to precautions, those who pass it on to those with chronic diseases, and those who cause their death would have a very hefty conscience indeed. So we need to take all our precautions and then leave it to the discretion of God. Without taking the necessary precautions, it is not permissible by our religion, by our culture, to expect things from God. In our faith, we leave things to the discretion of God only after taking the necessary precautions. Of course, this pandemic will not continue forevermore. We know that pandemics throughout history have taken around 2 years to subside. Now we are nearing the end of the first year of coronavirus pandemic. From Asia to Africa to Europe to the Americas, this pandemic has taken the world by storm. And from the very beginning of the pandemic, Turkey has been an exemplary role model in terms of healthcare services. And of course, this was possible thanks to the projects that we undertook in the last 18 years in terms of infrastructure, in terms of equipment, in terms of human resources. We implemented large-scale transformations all across the nation, and we have initiated investments in different parts of our country, and we have appreciated the importance of this once again during the pandemic. City hospitals and other high-capacity healthcare centers have helped us manage the crisis with comfort. In terms of vaccine studies, we have been following the recent developments closely on a global scale, and we are also moving towards producing our own vaccine. Right now, 8 studies are being conducted, and in 2 of them, animal studies have successfully been completed. A private company's infrastructure has been rendered possible for the production of a future vaccine. Hopefully, in the first couple of months of next year, we will be starting production for these vaccines. And we also keep a very close eye on this, just like on all the other subjects related to the pandemic. Let us not forget that we can only overcome this pandemic by assuming responsibility as the state and as the citizens Our state remains strong, thankfully, and our citizens, as soon as they adhere to their own responsibilities, hopefully, God willing, we will overcome this struggle. Our healthcare professionals have been working selflessly and tirelessly day and night, and by acting responsibly, we can repay our debt to them. All throughout history, we have triumphed in many battles and many hardships, and with all my heart, I believe that our nation will triumph in front when confronted with this pandemic as well. And within this framework, here are the things that I'd like to share with the public. The fines imposed because of not wearing masks will be strengthened, and provincial public health bodies, when the need arises, will take decisions and implement them fully. Cafes and restaurants, inspections will be taken more seriously, and those that are in isolation, and whether they adhere to rules or not, will be monitored much more closely. And vaccine studies that are implemented across the world, and their Turkey arms are being monitored closely. Citizens above the age of 65 may have restrictions in terms of traveling once again, and human trials will commence in the next couple of months for a vaccine. And as a result of natural disasters that we experienced, we made certain promises to our public, and we are fulfilling these promises. Right after Elazığ and Malatya earthquakes, certain housing units were constructed, and we are in the final stages of the construction. As you see on the screen, all these buildings, in a short while actually, these will be, and I will personally be there for the inauguration. We will be handing over these to the rights owners, rights holders, and the fees have also been finalized in both cities. For flats 2+1, flats will be between 510 and 725,000. No, correction. 725 lira per month will be the monthly payment, and similarly 3+1 flats 730 and 995 will be the monthly payment for these flats. In village dwellings, those without stables, 790 per month. In those with stables, 905 lira per month will be the payment that will be required from the owners. These payments will have a term of 20 years, and no interest rates will apply. And in all of these buildings, infrastructure project, and many other investments were actually undertaken free of charge by our government. And similarly, we achieved discounts up to 40% in terms of costs. These houses in Elazığ and Malatya will hopefully be auspicious for our citizens. Honorable members of the public, together with the entire world, we are battling against COVID-19, this pandemic, and we are entering a new era. We have accumulated a wealth of experience, we have traveled a long distance, and in light of these experiences, we are developing new strategies. And during today's cabinet meeting, we had the opportunity to discuss all these matters in greater detail, and inshallah, we will make sure that our country overcomes this difficulty with the minimum level of harm, and hopefully we will be reaping the fruits of our efforts. We know that this is a healthcare crisis, but on a global scale, it has social, economic, and political implications, and we recognize the magnitude of this. That's why our strategy in terms of struggle against COVID-19 needs to be multidimensional. We need to protect the health and welfare of our citizens, and we also need to make sure that we can all build a brighter future for our country, for our citizens. Within this framework, we remain committed to our goals for 2023, and we aspire to turn Turkey into a global and regional power. We're never going to compromise on that goal. New city hospitals will be opened up. New emergency hospitals and healthcare centers are being opened, and we are continuing our drilling activities in the Mediterranean as well as in the Aegean. We work day and night to manage the impact of COVID-19, but on the other hand, we claim and exercise our rights in the Eastern Mediterranean. On the one hand, we are engaged in scientific efforts to combat the virus. On the other hand, we are frustrating one by one the heinous attacks against our economy. On the one hand, we are extending a helping hand to those impacted negatively by precautions against the COVID-19 pandemic, and on the other hand, we continue to invest in several different projects, and we are reaping the fruits of our efforts. Just to give you an example, we discovered a natural gas reserve in the Black Sea. In terms of its economic significance and morale boost, it has given us heart, and in the Black Sea, in the Mediterranean, we continue our research activities. Hopefully we will discover new reserves, and this will add to our satisfaction and joy as a nation. And we also fight against those who ignore our rights in the Mediterranean, and they are now getting closer to the table of diplomacy. In our southern borders, we have worked quite a lot to make sure that our borders are safe. We have initiated many operations, and in the second quarter, our economy got smaller, albeit in a limited capacity, but for the third quarter, the indicators are quite heartening. There has been an increase in production despite the pandemic, and the increase is 4.4% in organized industrial zones. Electricity consumption in August and September actually exceeded the pandemic levels, which is a testament to the fact that our production is increasing. New highways are being opened up, and this is important in terms of enhancing our capacity across the nation. 83 million citizens in 81 provinces will benefit from these projects. I've said this time and time again. Let me repeat it once again. Water is civilization. Roads mean civilization. If a town or if a country does not have roads, then they cannot talk about civilization. All of these projects actually raise the bar for our country. Our exporters continue to achieve a lot of success. In agriculture, we've had a really good season, and in tourism, in commerce, we have recuperated some of our losses at least. And in services industry, certain restrictions, negative restrictions, will be lifted, of course, in light of the recent developments vis-à-vis COVID-19. Turkey will continue to prosper and get stronger, and we will be doing away with all the impediments in front of us, and we will reach our 2023 goals. No one and no power should try and ignore Turkey in the post-COVID-19 world and in the post-COVID-19 world order. All throughout the history of our republic, our country was exposed to many dark scenarios and heinous attacks, and for us not to fall into these traps another time, we will do whatever it takes. For this, efforts to succeed, certain terrorist organizations are utilized, but we're never going to give in to their efforts and give them the opportunity. Those who trample on the values of our nation, those who are engaged in acts of tutelage, will not be allowed to reign supreme. And certain people have been targeting Turkey and the Turkish nation through their several acts. Once again, to them we say that you will not succeed. And the days when they succeeded are gone, and sooner or later they will understand that those days are gone. Turkey is getting stronger, and as Turkey reclaims more power, those who have belittled us for years will find themselves in a difficult situation, but fear will not help them. Every line of our national anthem was written in blood, and it says, "I have lived free all throughout history, and I do not know any impediments. I will travel across mountains, and I will not be confined by the seas." So yes, this nation is like a flood which cannot be contained. We will be overcoming all the difficulties, all the impediments that are thrown in our way, just like we've done in the past. We remain committed to our goals, like I said. Whoever is with us on this march, they will be our comrades. They will be the ones that we will be breaking bread with, and those people will be our friends, and we will be laying down our lives for them if needs be. But those who stab us in the back, who are engaged in animosity towards us, those people will not be forgotten either. Honorable members of our nation, tomorrow the 75th General Assembly of the UN will commence, and for the first time, one of our former ministers, who also served as an MP in our parliament, Mr. Volkan Bozkır, will be the chair of the General Assembly, the UN General Assembly. Taking this opportunity, I would like to wish every success to Mr. Bozkır. He will hold this post for 1 year. He will be the UNGA chair for 1 year, and if it hadn't been for the pandemic, we would be in New York right now and chairing our delegation. Because of the pandemic, we had to record a pre-recorded message, and tomorrow at around 4, hopefully this will be broadcast as well, and at the GA we will be conveying our messages to the world at large. The GA will focus on the pandemic first and foremost, obviously, and regional and global matters will also be discussed. And in this global platform, many issues will be put on the table and discussed. And as Turkey, for long years, we have said that the Security Council of the UN, as well as other international mechanisms, need to be reshaped because of the injustices and because of the issues that need to be addressed. We have always said that the world is larger than 5. The global order was established after the First and the Second World Wars, and the current structure can no longer be maintained. And at every incident, we see this once again. When I first uttered these words, certain people were against this idea that the world is actually larger than 5. But even those people are now accepting that we were in the right, and that we are in the right. From Sudan to Yemen to rest of parts of the world, in many parts of the world, the UN failed miserably, and throughout the pandemic, once again, the UN failed to remedy the plight of people around the world. They acknowledged the existence of the pandemic weeks after the occurrence of the pandemic, and unfortunately they could not devise plans to address this pandemic. Turkey single-handedly sent medical aid to 146 countries, and the fact that UN was so ineffective throughout the pandemic actually shows that our assessment is correct. Our aid, our support is not extended because of political or diplomatic ulterior motives. This is what our civilization necessitates. Our culture necessitates that we side with the downtrodden, the oppressed, and as a country, we have always been committed to this. This is the type of country Turkey is. We do not have a history blighted by genocides or colonialism like the West. That's why they do not understand our standing regarding these matters. We resisted against coups. We took care of asylum seekers, and in healthcare as well, we were a model on a global scale, and that makes us very proud indeed. In Syria, in Libya, in Yemen, and in many parts of the world, in many humanitarian crises, we have seen the true colors of certain countries, and we believe that they cannot dole out peace and justice to the world. Armenia attacked Azerbaijani territories, and no concrete steps were taken to prevent that from happening. And again, this is an example of the injustices that I mentioned previously. And certain promises were made regarding Syria, and unfortunately, they were not honored. And many developed countries were unprepared for this crisis, and we have seen once again that they cannot even address their own issues. Regarding Cyprus and Eastern Mediterranean, a handful of countries are trying to protect their own interests by impinging on international law. They turn their backs to their own principles, and as such they cannot preach to Turkey. Certain people have animosity against Turkey, and they're trying to create an upheaval in the region, and actually they are preparing their own bitter end. Now, certain people who no longer wield political power, what they're doing right now is nothing more than whistling in the dark. Turkey, up until today, has always paid a price for its actions, and our nation, up until today, has achieved this, and in the future as well, we are going to we know what sort of price we could pay, and that's how we act. For 1,000 years, we have renewed ourselves constantly, we have rejuvenated ourselves constantly, we have deepened our roots and expanded our roots, just like a plain tree. Once again, this tree has been awakened and has been activated. Those that are in front of us, just like trees that from within will collapse when the first hurricane takes place, and they're nothing but shells. Once again, I would like to underscore the following. In Cyprus, in the Mediterranean, in the Aegean, and in other parts of the world, we will not be setting our sights on the rights of others, on the honor of others. What we do is protect our own rights, and we will never let anyone disrespect our rights. And we call on the nations of these countries to find out about the facts and act accordingly. A handful of people who wield power are actually bringing their countries to the brink of catastrophe because of their own personal interests, and we would not want that to happen. We attach the greatest of importance to life, and today we, just like in the past, we are for peace and stability and welfare for all. 83 million people live in this country, and we have 780 square kilometers of territory, and certain people are targeting us, and they have a winner takes it all approach, and that is not realistic, and that will never be accepted. We are pro-dialogue, pro-negotiations, pro-agreement. We do not believe, we believe that there is nothing that can be solved through these means. But of course, this approach needs to be exhibited by our interlocutors as well, and they need to act sensibly as well. Otherwise, we will not shy away from any difficult struggle, and this is not mere rhetoric. And to understand that, you need to look at our 2,000 years as a state and our presence in this part of the world in the last 10,000 years and our recent struggles in the last couple of years and decades. Honorable members of our public, Turkey, with its democracy and economy, is at a watershed moment, and we have actually come to the final stage of this important turning point. In the last 7 years, we were attacked ceaselessly, and all sorts of methods were used against Turkey to derail Turkey, and fault lines of the society were targeted, and conflicts were stoked by certain powers, but luckily their efforts have been in vain. Terrorist organizations were utilized to instigate attacks, and we shed blood, but none of these terrorist attacks were able to succeed in the end. Tutelage and coup implementers tried to seize the national will, and at every time their plans were frustrated by the prescience of our nation, and heinous attacks towards our economy were identified duly, and we took the necessary steps. Of course, the scenarios to change the government were revealed, and terrorist organizations on our southern borders were utilized by certain powers in a bid to disintegrate Turkey, and we took a step, a cross-border step, to frustrate their efforts. In the recent times, certain people are trying to lock Turkey in to our shorelines, and again, we have acted against that. On the 15th of July, we took ownership of our democracy, and we changed our administrative system legitimately and adopted the executive presidential system. And finally, during the pandemic, Turkey achieved a great accomplishment thanks to its strong infrastructure. Now, no one can belittle our vision for 2053 or 2071. No one will be able to laugh at us. Turkey's vision will definitely be implemented. We have every faith and every confidence, and our friends and foes will also come to acknowledge this. We believe that our country, our nation will achieve the goals that we have set for ourselves, and inshallah, God willing, our brothers, our sons and daughters will also implement our vision for the future, and hopefully they will pray for us when they do so. With these sentiments, I would like to greet you all once again with my deepest regards. Thank you very much for your attention.
Hayırlı akşamlar.